Consider a car bumper compressing during a collision. Predicting its motion requires solving a differential equation where acceleration, velocity, and position are locked in a shifting balance. Calculus forces us to track these changing rates simultaneously, a notoriously difficult task. What if we could untangle this knot and solve the problem using basic multiplication? This is what the Laplace transform achieves, translating calculus into simple algebra. But how exactly does an infinite integral turn a complex derivative into basic multiplication? Imagine a glass prism splitting white light into its individual frequencies. In mathematics, we can do the same to a time-varying signal, like a vibrating spring. Instead of looking at how the spring moves second by second, we can analyze the static frequencies that make up its entire history. This is the transition from the time domain to the complex frequency domain, or the S domain. By shifting our perspective, dynamic changes over time become fixed geometric coordinates. But how do we physically transport our time-based function into this static frequency space? The mathematical vehicle for this journey is the exponential expression e to the negative st. Here, s is a complex variable, s equals sigma plus j omega, containing both a decay rate sigma and a rotational frequency omega. By multiplying our time-based function by e to the negative st, we wrap it around the origin of a complex plane while dampening it. Visually, this creates a spiral converging towards the center. The rate at which this spiral shrinks depends entirely on the chosen value of s. But what happens when we measure the total area of this spiraling shape? To find that total area, we integrate this spiraling function from time 0 to infinity, written as the integral of f of t times e to the negative st dt. This integral acts as a scanner. For most values of s, the spiral balances around the origin, and the positive and negative areas cancel out. But when the frequency of e to the negative st matches an inherent frequency of the function, the spiral offsets, creating a non-zero area. This resulting value, f of s, represents the strength of that specific frequency. But how does the scanning process affect a derivative? Let us replace our original function with its derivative, df dt, which represents the instantaneous slope of our signal at every moment. If we feed this derivative into our scanner, we get the integral from 0 to infinity of df dt times e to the negative st dt. Geometrically, we are now measuring the total area of a new spiral, one constructed not from the positions of our system, but from its velocities. Solving this integral directly seems difficult because we do not know what the derivative looks like. How do we bypass this lack of information to find the area?
To solve this, we apply integration by parts, a geometric tool that redistributes the area under a curve. By setting u equals e to the negative st and dv equals df over dt dt, we can rewrite the integral. Integration by parts tells us that the total area is equal to the evaluation of the boundary terms, u times v, minus a new integral of v times du. Visually, this process shifts the derivative off our unknown function and onto the highly predictable exponential term. What happens to our equation when we calculate the derivative of e to the negative st? Taking the derivative of e to the negative st with respect to time is simple. The chain rule brings the constant factor negative s down to the front, giving us negative s e to the negative st. When we plug this back into our integration by parts formula, the two negative signs cancel out, transforming our subtraction into addition. We are left with the boundary term f of t times e to the negative st evaluated from 0 to infinity, plus the integral of s times f of t times e to the negative st dt. But how do we simplify these boundary terms to see the clean algebraic result? Assuming our decay rate sigma is large enough to overpower the system's growth, the term e to the negative st decays to 0 as time approaches infinity, completely wiping out the upper boundary. At the lower limit, where time equals 0, e to the 0 becomes 1, leaving us simply with the initial state, minus f of 0. We are left with just the initial condition and our new integral. Because s is constant with respect to time, we pull it completely outside the integration sign. Why is pulling s outside the integral the ultimate breakthrough? With s pulled outside, the remaining integral is exactly the original Laplace transform of f of t. Therefore, the Laplace transform of the derivative is simply s times f of s minus f of 0. The calculus has vanished. The derivative operator has been completely replaced by multiplication by the complex frequency s. Visually, taking a derivative in the time domain is equivalent to scaling and rotating our frequency plane by the vector s. How does this algebraic replacement make solving physical systems like a vibrating spring incredibly fast? Assuming our car bumper starts perfectly from rest, we swap every derivative for a power of s, turning the spring equation into simple algebra. ms squared x plus bsx plus kx equals f. If it was already moving, Laplace seamlessly incorporates those initial conditions too. Solving for x becomes a matter of basic division, bypassing hours of calculus. Yet this flawless shortcut raises a deeper mystery. How did mathematicians ever think to combine complex exponentials and infinite integrals. To uncover the strange origin of this mathematical wormhole, click on the next video, How the Laplace Transform was discovered.